Hello, hello, my fellow broke aristocrats. How are you today? This is one of those videos that I think is going to be a lot of fun. And this is 6 frugal things that actually cost you money. And this is from the perspective of being a broke aristocrat. So those people that like this channel, that are part of the broke aristocrat community, we are people who really guard our time. We are aristocrats, and so our time is costly. Yes, we know the value of our time. So we always want to calculate how long it takes us to do anything and ask ourselves, is this really worth my time? Is sitting and brooding about this really worth my time? Is doing this work really worth my time? Sometimes a broke aristocrat will actually outsource work because her time, his time is really costly. So we always want to take that into consideration anytime we're creating a frugal budget. Is this really worth your time? As an aristocrat, a lady and a gentleman must think about such things. So number one, the first thing that I saw that was a frugal activity that might actually cost you money is homemade soap. Homemade soap for doing the laundry. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's kind of a fun project as a hobby you can do with your children. I think it's got that nice homesteading feel, but it's really expensive soap when you think about it. The time you have to, when you make your homemade soap, calculate how much you earn per hour. If I hire you for 1 hour, is that going to cost me $10, $20? If you're a physician, maybe $100, $200 an hour. My time is money, so we're talking some really expensive soap if Dr. Whimsy decides she wants to get into the soap making business. So you want to calculate the ingredients for the soap, the amount of time it takes you to search for them if you're going on Amazon, or getting in the car, burning all that gas, the time it took to get to the store to buy the products, the time it took to make the soap. So if you're out 2-3 hours theoretically and we're charging only $10 an hour for our time, tack on $30 to that soap. If you're $20 an hour, it's $60 to that soap. Homemade soap is just an example of one of those great frugal tips on YouTube that did not calculate for employment time. Another thing you could do is simply go, like I did, to a discount store, which is a block and a half away from me here. I like to get walks in. It's one of the ways that broke aristocrats like to exercise and move the body. Walking and hiking is free. It gets our heart pumping, it gets our blood pumping, and it gives us an opportunity to walk around the neighborhood and say hi to the doggies, what is the name of her? What is her name? Budget Girl. I absolutely love her. Like her, I'm a huge fan of dogs. I have to say hi to every dog I walk past, and I like to say hi to everybody I meet. So I'm out in the neighborhood, I'm walking about, I'm getting some exercise in. I like to go to a couple different discount stores here in the Hollywood area. I bought this economical and effective soap, which is certified biodegradable, by the way, and no scent. Phosphate free for $1.99. I use half a cup. That to me is a better use of a broke aristocrat's time because I am a lady and my time is quite expensive. So should you have the luxury of my time, then consider yourself lucky. All right, so that's an example, would be homemade soap. The other one I saw people doing, and I think that this was kind of silly, was homemade toilet paper, homemade cloth toilet paper. And I saw some fun videos where women were taking rags and they were sewing them really nicely, and then they were putting them in their bathroom, and then they had to wash them. Oh, wash it in hot water. Well, if you wash it in hot water, you'll actually stain it. You would have to first do a cold wash with soap, I used to work in a senior citizens home, so I learned all the tricks about getting stains out of clothing. You got to wash it first in cold water, and then you have to do a second. So now you're consuming, you're using water, you're using soap, you're using electricity, and you're taking the time to make the toilet paper, to sew it really nicely. Again, that's a nice idea in theory, but then take off $20, $30, $40, $50 for the time it took for you to make that beautiful cloth, and then also you have to take out for resources like electricity, wash, etc. Now, if after all of that you still think it's cost effective, then I say go for it. But you can buy a large bag of TP at the same discount store where you get this, and you've got a nice walk-in, so you have used your time wisely. You know, you are exercising, you're moving. Broke aristocrats, we're always looking for ways to use our time wisely because we know the value of our time. We honor ourselves, we respect ourselves. We are ladies, and ladies respect their time. Gentlemen, we honor you and we respect your time. So we don't want to take up anyone's time with something that's not cost effective. Number 3, cheap clothes. You know, there's a time and a place when a broke aristocrat likes cheap clothes. You know, if I'm working in the garden, or if I'm doing exercise, if I'm talking to you, I like to do my cheap clothes. Like today, I'm doing some laundry, I'm putzing around the house. That's absolutely fine. But, you know, I want it to be a good cotton because I am spoiled. I found that going to the cheap stores and getting cheap clothes, you throw it in the wash, it falls apart. I'm not saving money, really. The better thing for me to do as an aristocrat is that here in Los Angeles, I like to go to the Jewish Women's Council thrift store, which is on Fairfax and Beverly Boulevard if you live in this area. And I find that they have the most nice clothes. I always look for the high quality fabrics. I like silk, I like wool, I like 100% cotton. Again, because I'm an aristocrat. And I look, and number one, I make sure that I've got the right size, because it can be a great piece of cloth, but if it doesn't fit me, it's going to look terrible. So I want to make sure it's a good size. I want to check it for damage. I want to make sure that it's a good quality type of cloth. I've learned how to do my own dry cleaning using a dry cleaning bag. I got it at Target. I take whatever has to be dry cleaned, I put it in a bag, and then I put it in the dryer, and that way you can cost effectively do your own dry cleaning. So cheap clothes is one of those things where you really want to invest in good quality. I always start first when I'm looking at something at a good quality used store like the Jewish Women's Council thrift. Around the corner from them is Goodwill, so I will start there. If I don't see what I like, I then go over to Goodwill. And if I still don't like what I see, I go to Nordstrom's rack, and I also occasionally show up at Ross's department store, though to be honest with you, I have not been happy with Ross's. I very rarely find anything there I like. Number 4, I wanted to talk about cheap food. I've talked about this before in previous videos, that cheap food is not cheap, because yes, you're saving on, wow, look, I got 10 bags of potato chips for, you know, $5, but I would say, how about you not buy any potato chips, and then you've saved your $5, or take that $5 and buy some in-season fruits and vegetables, and that to me would be more cost effective, because you have to calculate when you're buying cheap food for the health consequences. If you're eating food that leads to chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, or an increased risk for coronary artery disease, calculate the cost of chronic disease in terms of medicine and medical treatment to the food that you're eating. And again, this channel is not called Broke Aristocrats for nothing. We are aristocrats, and aristocrats do not eat garbage. We show you on this channel how you can eat nutritiously and do it on a budget. And even if you did pay a little bit extra now, that means you're saving a lot of money down the road in terms of health. And finally, and then 5, I talked about meal planning. I want to talk a little bit about meal planning. Meal planning is one of those frugal things that's really a frugal fail, because what I'm seeing a lot with meal planning is that people are making too many meals with too many leftovers. It's too much work. And they're also making too many calories. And I'm going to do an entire, Nurse Amanda really wanted to talk about this calorie consumption and the history of how calorie consumption has changed over the years. Back in the days when most of us were farmers before the tractor trailer, we had to go out in the field and we burned a lot of calories. We had to consume massive amounts of calorie, but as humans have become less active, our caloric needs have declined dramatically, and less calories actually is associated with longevity. So now we want to focus on making our food as nutrient dense as possible and less calories. So meal planning actually can be expensive if it's not done properly. I would suggest people make their meals a lot cheaper and less complicated. Soup and salad at night is just fine. Last night here at the Broke Aristocrat's house, I took the leftover bones and chicken from a rotisserie chicken. I do this once a week. I boiled it down for a couple of hours until I got a good broth, threw in whatever vegetables were in the vegetable tinder, threw in some Trader Joe's mixed vegetables towards the end. I made a mixed green salad. Let me tell you, there were a lot of happy girls at the table. We are broke aristocrats, and we love nothing more than a good homemade chicken soup. Nurse Amanda had went and got a mixed brown rice, wild rice. I threw some of that into the soup, and so it made this beautiful nutrient dense broth. And when you cook something for a long time, you're going to lose the vitamin C, but you're actually going to make the bioavailability of the vitamin A, the beta carotene, is actually going to be more bioavailable. So if you're worried about the vitamin C, just serve a nice green salad with it. So it was a good, nice meal that we had last night. Not too many calories, because at Broke Aristocrats, we're very calorie conscious. So in terms of saving money on meal planning, really think to eat less food and less complicated food. Not these big dinners that I see people planning for, big breakfast, big lunch, big dinner. A nutrient-dense smoothie in the morning is just fine. A salad and some protein for lunch, and then maybe soup and salad for dinner. Start tailoring down those meal plans so that you're not spending so much money and you're focusing more on nutrition than on calories. One of the best things you can do in terms of improving your health and increasing your longevity. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about in terms of frugal fails, education, and the epidemic of illiteracy in the United States. I know that a lot of people try to save money by not going to school, and there's been a lot of conversations in the frugal community about whether or not education is worth it. Please rest assured education is worth it, and there are frugal, cost-effective ways to get an education. And if you've looked at some of my videos, we support education for education's sake. And I encourage education for the entirety of one's life. If you are near a public library, I encourage you to either start or join a book club so that you can exchange dialogue with other people about literacy and literature. Very important if you want to get involved with your local community college, and if you are over the age of 27, you may be entitled to a free education. Speak to the financial aid counselors. An associate's arts degree is usually free through the federal government if you are on a fixed or lower income and over the age of 27. Illiteracy is not cost effective. Uneducated people earn less, and we have limited choices. With literacy comes more knowledge, and with more knowledge we tend to do better in life. So that about wraps it up. Those are my 6 frugal fails. 6 things that people do to be frugal that are actually costing them money. So number 1, homemade soap. My time is too expensive. I just go and get a nice, good quality, biodegradable. I'm happy. Homemade toilet paper, never going to be not in this aristocrat's home. Cheap clothes, I try to get the higher end, gently worn. I like the Jewish Women's thrift store, Council thrift store on Fairfax. They have other locations in West Los Angeles as well if you're in this area. Cheap food, as I said, it's not cost effective if you calculate for medications for chronic disease, hospital stays, etc. Pay for the good quality nutrient dense food. Number 5, meal planning. If you're planning complicated meals with too many ingredients, if the food is poor quality, if you're planning meals that are not nutrient dense with too many calories, that is not cost effective meal planning. And finally, number 6, never underestimate the power of a good book. Never underestimate the power of education. With education comes knowledge, and with knowledge comes choices. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm having fun, and I hope you are as well. And if you are a broke aristocrat, and if you are new to this channel, be sure and share, like, subscribe, and tell me what you are doing to honor yourself and take care of yourself without breaking the bank. Take care. Bye-bye.